Well, our top story at this hour, we've been following the protests in France over the high petrol prices, and now the French President Emmanuel Macron has refused to slash the petrol prices in the country despite those massive protests. And the president has said he hears the protesters but won't scrap fuel taxes. There was chaos, remember, just on Saturday on the Champs-Elysees as the police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse protesters over there, and the demonstrations had been billed as the Yellow Vest movement as an Act 2 in the campaign that began a week ago. Though the protests initially focused on the rise in the fuel duty on diesel, they later grew to reflect an anger at the rising living costs as well, particularly in rural areas, and other grievances against President Macron's policies. More than 1 lakh people took part in those protests across France on Saturday, and observers say that protesters are from against the inequality about these taxes and say that the government must subsidize this for them. And as you can see, these visuals now are from Saturday, and there were massive protests. In fact, many people thought that because of the escalation in the protests that French President Emmanuel Macron would back down from his policy changes and that they might see a dip in the fuel prices. But he says that he hears the protesters, but there's nothing that he can do to slash the fuel taxes as of now. These protests, as we are saying, have been widespread across France. And this, of course, from the government's point of view, has been done to promote the use of electric cars and, of course, to reduce use of traditional cars which use diesel and petrol. But many people say that this is going to increase the price of living and the standard of living. The price of living in France. You can see those shots, of course, from the Champs-Elysees, very close from the presidential palace in France.